my granddad was in World War I. My dad and 3 of his brothers were in World War II. And my mother's 3 brothers were in World War II. So how that all affected, all of them didn't come home. I had an uncle who was killed Christmas Day, 1944, and in France. And if you go through the museum here, you see some of these names and pictures and people, and can equate them to other families. This town lost a lot of people in World War II, especially, and they lost more people in Vietnam.
Well, right here's a picture of my grandfather, William Preston Guy Sr. He was in World War I. He didn't move to Cramerton until, I can't remember, I said it earlier in the interview. I'm not sure exactly right off the top of my head what year, but he was in World War I, and he was like 16, 17, 18 years old. There was a tale by my family that he lied about his age so that he could fight in the war. But this picture's taken off the banks of the Seine River in France. He was part of the artillery. Now my dad, on the other hand, is right here. He was in the reserves in the Army. He would have to go down to, I think, Georgia to do his boot camp work, and he would hitchhike sometimes home to see my mother at Catawba, so that he could, because they were going to get married.
My dad my dad, Uncle Harold, Uncle Ed, my cousin Junior, and there's, I think, about 5 of them. There's a newspaper article, maybe I should get that to you. It's an old thing, but it shows, there was an article in the Gazette that all the Stone boys serving in the military in World War II. And yeah, they were all there at one time. And all came back except for my Uncle Harold, and he got shot down over Germany. And he was the youngest, too, of the brothers.
Yeah, my grandfather, C.O. Young, I know he served in World War I. We still have I think some of the photographs of him I have at home when he was in the Army. Of course, my dad's 3 brothers and my dad, they all served. I want to say Martin and Raymond were Army. Rodney, my Uncle Rodney, and my dad joined the Navy. What my Uncle Rodney did in the Navy, I don't really know. My dad was the youngest of the 4 boys. Dad joined the Navy in 1948, I think.
My family was very military, and like I said, my father had 4 brothers, and there were 8 in all. And he signed up, enlisted, when he realized the war was going to take place. This would have been in 1940, and his brothers signed up right after him. My father was in Italy, and his brother was in France, and the fact that the whole family pulled together to support the country that they loved, and they were willing to go anywhere and do anything to support that country. And his brother, on the day that my father was released from service, his brother was killed in France in 1944. It was on Christmas Day. And this is Boyce, which was the one who was killed. He was in the Air Force as well, and he was flying as support for a huge bomber. It had 12 members of the crew, and he had just filled in for a friend of his who couldn't be there, and the plane crashed and he died. That was in 44. But I grew up knowing this, and I grew up knowing that the family supported our country, our values, and the principles that were instilled in us as children by the school, the church, the family. I mean, it was always that way.
A little bit I know, he was in the Navy, and he told me that they had some scary, very difficult times. They escorted a fighter ship, and he said that he didn't know that he didn't think he would return from the war. He thought maybe he would not survive the war. He stated that when I would ask him about his service.
Killer Kane, just like my grandfather and many others in Cramerton, were veterans, and Killer Kane was known for his ability to fly an airplane, and he flew it under the San Francisco Bridge. He also, when he was in World War II, he shot down 8 planes, Japanese planes, which earned him the Ace Award. His sister was also in the armed services too, which was very different at the time to have a female in the armed services. But Killer Kane didn't get his name from shooting all the Japanese planes down. He got his name for his good looks. So they called him Killer Kane because he was so good looking.
Yes, my father, of course, was in the Army. Actually, my oldest son did. He was in the Reserve, National Guard.
I was in the United States Army. I graduated from college on Sunday, and on Monday I got my draft notice, and I reconciled myself. Well, I'll get to see the world. They sent me to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Then after basic training, they sent me to Fort Bragg, and that's the world that I got to see for 2 years.
I had my grandfather's not twin boys. His boys, John and Reeves, were both in service during World War II. And Reeves, he died younger. He died at 53 or 54. He graduated from Gardner Webb. I think he was president of the student body up there. And his war stories, he told me, is in Germany in a tank. And he said the first thing they'd do if they come to town, it'd blow the church steeple off the church. He said, cause the Germans, that's where they were looking, as where they had their people looking out for the enemy coming. So they knew that they'd see them if they was in that church steeple.
Well, I had 2 uncles that were career Navy men, and my older brother was a career Navy man, so I followed in his footsteps. And my next younger brother, Charlie, did a naval career. And a couple of the highlights for my Navy career is I was on the world's first nuclear-powered destroyer, the USS Bainbridge. I was on the commissioning crew, or as the Navy called it, a plank owner of that ship. And also I was a member of the first crew or sonar gang to actually detect, track, and verify that we had contact on a Russian Echo-class nuclear submarine. And we did with a nuclear task force made up of the USS Enterprise, the USS Long Beach, and the USS Bainbridge. We did a circumnavigation of the globe in 62 days without any outside assistance. We didn't take on, of course, no fuel since we're all nuclear powered, but we didn't take on any stores or food stocks or supplies, just to show that we could do it independently.
Other interviews, Rhett Cozart is a marker here in Cramerton. He's done well for this community. He and I grew up from 1946 till we graduated from high school in 58 and joined the Navy together. I stayed in for 3 years, and he got out and got right back in after the summer vacation, and he stayed in to become a warrant officer, W4.
I was going to King's Business College, and my brother came in and says, I'm going to drop out of school and I'm going in service. I said, well, I don't know that I'm going in. He said, I'm going up to the draft board. And he went to the draft board and talked to him up there and says, would you draft both of us at the same time? And they did. And we got to be examined in Charlotte on February the 14th, 1956. And they said, well, you brothers want to stay together. Charles says, well, he sent me to Tank Hill and him to Timbuktu, or vice versa. We're just going in to get out at the same time. We spent 1 year, 10 months, and 15 days either in the same room or right next to each other. We went TDY from the 2nd Armored Division, 8th Infantry Division to the 2nd Armored Division, and for a year or so, we were medics. I was a medic, he was a mail carrier, and we were, wherever we went in together, come out together, and I never will forget, we went to the 66th Tank Battalion in Baumholder, Germany, and there's a major. He was a CO, and we went in and made ourselves comfortable. And he said, "Now, if you boys will re-up for the next couple of years, I'll keep you right with me, as brothers." Charles said, "No, we're going to spend our time together, and we're going to go home. We're going to go get out at the same time." He said, "Well, I'm going to be out in 2 years myself." But we spent 2 years together. We were TDY. He was in charge of mail there at the bomb holder for the company mail, and I run the aid station.
He became a hospital corpsman, Navy corpsman, and was assigned to a Marine Corps unit as a hospital corpsman, and he went to Korea. He spent a year in Korea during the Korean War. And, you know, Dad passed away in 2025, and I found a duffel bag full of his uniforms. So I still have those.
My Uncle Rodney Starrett, who was my daddy's brother, was in the military, and he was wounded and got shot in the thigh, and they took out about 4 inches of the bone in the thigh and put a rod or something in. I don't know what all they did, but I always remembered when after he got out of service, the military furnished, or the government furnished his shoes, and his right shoe, the heel on it was about 5 or 6 inches high, and that let him walk level. And he was the one that was most active in the military at that time in the family.
And spent 6 years in the Army National Guard. I trained in Fort Gordon, Georgia, and Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri is where I did my training. And then I came back to Belmont and spent 6 years in the National Guard.
As I mentioned, my Uncle Jim, he was in the military, and my father was in the military. I had uncles. Pretty much all of the males in my family had served one way or another. My brother, as I said, a proud Marine Corps veteran, and I looked up to my brother so much, and he was older and mostly gone by the time I was growing up, but I still looked up to him. So I wanted, I felt that I wanted to go into the military a little bit, well, not just because of my brother, but because almost all the males in my family had been in the military in one way or another, not career military people, but had served a stint. And so when I was thinking when I was getting close to graduating high school, I was thinking about what branch of the military, and I looked at the Army, and I made up my mind I thought I would go in the reserves first. So I went in the Army National Guard. I served for 6 years in the Army National Guard, and I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma 2 weeks after I graduated high school at 17 years old. I had never probably been too far away in my life, but I found myself at Fort Sill and really started growing up pretty quickly at 17. Even though I felt like I was pretty grown and knew what was going on, but my military experience certainly helped me to grow up in the time that I spent on active duty. I spent 6 months on active duty, and then the rest of my 6 years I was in a reserve position.
The other years I was in the Army, and I was in there for 3 years, and then I went to Fort Bragg to begin with, and from Fort Bragg they sent us to down in South Carolina, and I took my infantry training in South Carolina, and they told us right at the end of our infantry training, all of you are going to Vietnam. So we got to go home from there and spend another 30 days at home, and we all went right at the same time out of Charlotte. We had to go from Charlotte. We went to training in Georgia, and we went from Georgia straight till San Francisco, and then from San Francisco we went to what's that big city in the middle of the ocean out there? A lot about starts with a S. I know that. That's beside the point. That's what we got. Did our training and everything, and then we went from there to Vietnam.
Well, I wear a Vietnam cap and stuff, and I was drafted into the military, and I trained in Fort Ord, California and everything. A whole battalion before us was shipped to Vietnam, so they took us and broke us up and set us different places. So I spent 18 months in Germany.
Well, I was drafted and I went. And I do it again.
On June the 14th, 1964, during lunch break, and I remember my grandmother has fixed me a couple bologna sandwiches, a banana, and an apple for lunch. And I sat there on the dock with a couple of buddies of mine, but we were all in college. And I looked down the dock, and I looked at those old men down there sitting there taking a break, eating. And I looked out in the parking lot and looked at a couple of new cars out there. And I looked at my future if I stayed here or at the mill. I gave the remaining of my food to one of the guys, name is Ron Greer, and jumped off the dock and walked on the underpass and went up to the First Baptist Church right there on the corner. and waited on the bus to Gastonia. I got on the bus at Gastonia, got off the bus in Gastonia, went to the post office, went into the Marine's office and said, I want to be a Marine. He said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be a paratrooper. He said, well, we don't have what we call division of paratroopers, but we have paramarines. You have to be selected. But I knew the Army across the hall had division, the 101st and the 82nd Airborne. So I walked across the hall and joined the Army. Lo and behold, I did not know, just over a year later, August of 1965, I would be in a place called Vietnam that I had no idea. If you had asked me to find it on the map, that you were giving me $1 million, I could have never found it on the map.
Got hit with the grenade, and for some reason I have trouble trying to remember that name for it. But I am fortunate to be here after getting hit by a grenade, and it went in back here and out here, plus on my leg, plus on my arm. 12 places I got hit, and it come out here, my arm, just on it, and my knee, they had to do surgery on it. And that was, it was unreal when I got back home eventually, after 2 years were up with being in the Army.
And I went into the Air Force in 1970, but we had others who went into the military, and especially during Vietnam, and some did not make it home, unfortunately. And we were just to have known those men who gave their life.
He was a year ahead of me in school, but Wayne Basil was a friend of mine. And you'll find his name on the Dead in Vietnam list.
This one is me and my brother. His name was Terry. And I am on this side right here. And when he got the word that I got wounded, he went and joined the Air Force. That same day, he and 4 others went the same day, and all of them knew me, and that's why they chose getting in the Air Force. They said, we're not going to get out where somebody shoots at us.
I did a tour in Vietnam as a shotgunner. They called us shotgun riders. We were doe gunners. We took our jungle training on the island of Oahu in Hawaii, up in the mountains of Hawaii. I did a year or 2 in Vietnam as a doe gunner, and thank God I was able to make it back. When I got back, I got orders from the Pentagon to go to drill sergeant school in Fort McClellan, Alabama. Had a 22-year-old young man going down to Alabama in 1966 was something within itself. Driving by myself. Went down, went to drill sergeant school, came back, I became a drill sergeant at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, E-10-2. He come to 10th Battalion, 2nd Brigade.
This is just a military order of the Purple Heart, Chapter 634. Chapter 634 is in Charlotte. I was a member of that for a long time. and we did a lot of, things for school. Went out and talked to them, went out and showed them this or that or the other, whatever it might be, and that's just, and this is Military Order of the Purple Heart. Just a little bit about it, the USA, and it just gives you, you just find out things about people and all, and I just enjoy reading it, and I go in there and look and see. I say, hey, I remember that guy. I remember that guy.
It's our rich history in the military. We lost 22 soldiers in WW1 for a town of under 2,000 people approximately. That's a big percentage if you think about it.
Just growing up here and just seeing guys, older people that served in the military. Cramerton has a long history of military service, and the guys. I remember, and David Julin would probably remember this too. Gene Langley. Gene was a guy that lived right over here on 11th Street, and Gene was a fella about my size. Very quiet man who didn't minded his own business, but he was very active in the First Baptist Church where I grew up. At some point, he gave testimony about his military service, and to know him and see him the way I saw him every day, and for him to tell the stories about what happened to him during World War II and where he was and all the things that he did, it just struck me as being one of those things that you never know. You just never know. You don't judge a book by its cover, and some of the things that and this town was full of people like that. I'm certain of it, who gave a lot more than they ever talk about.
So I thought, let's celebrate this thing and do a Veterans Memorial Day. So we've been able to do that every year in the last 5 years to honor all our veterans.
We try to keep up with on Veterans Day. We have a program for the last couple of years. We've had it at 3 years. We've had it at the Presbyterian Church, which was a church on a Army base that was torn down, taken apart, and brought over and put back together here in Cramerton. And so it means a lot to be able to go into a place that used to be a military sanctuary. And we have a program there, speakers, present the flags, have play taps, have lunch for all of the veterans and their families that come. And each year it seemed to have grown. And so I'm real proud that we participate in that.
Well, Cramerton, I think, embodies the saying that freedom isn't free. The sacrifices and the hard work that people did to earn that battle efficiency E during the Second World War for the Cramerton Army cloth, and just counting, there's always been lots of people from Cramerton to voluntarily, not get drafted, but voluntarily join the armed forces. Just thinking back, coming down Washington Street, I can name people in my age group that either did a service tour or retired from the Navy or one of the branches of the military, and that was Don Treadway, Pat Martin, Eston Martin, Diaz Cozart, Rhett Cozart, Charlie Cozart, Jim Cozart, Larry Nichols, Eddie Alton, Jabbo Treadway, Mike Alton, who died in Vietnam. No, excuse me, Donnie Alton, who died in Vietnam. And going up High Street, or 11th Street, is Don Galloway, who died in service, and Murray Mitchell, who lived on Washington Street. And it's just on and on that people here have wanted to serve and give back, and as we approach the 250th birthday, I just hope that that tradition, if you want to call it that, continues, that there'll always be those that are willing to serve when needed.